Right now, life often looks stuck not because nothing is moving on the outside, but because almost everything is happening only inside the head. Thoughts are loud, fast, and constant. The inner screen runs movies about yesterday, rehearsals for tomorrow, arguments that never happened, scenes that may never exist. The strangest part is that this mental prison has a door standing wide open. The lock is not made of iron. It is made of attention glued to thoughts. When attention cannot be held steady for even 10 seconds, it becomes very difficult to steer a life for 10 years. The moment things begin to change is not when the world suddenly cooperates. Things begin to change with something far quieter. The decision to stop treating every thought as a command, to stop living only in the head, and to begin living again in actual reality. Living in the head is so common that it often looks like intelligence. Overthinking is praised as maturity. Constant worry is dressed up as responsibility. Endless mental analysis is confused with depth. Underneath all these labels, there is usually one simple habit, a mind that has never learned to rest. The day begins and thoughts outrun the body before feet touch the floor. Yesterday's conversation is replayed. Imaginary replies are invented. Future disasters are predicted and survived in advance. 10 conversations run at once, none of them happening in the room. The chest tightens, shoulders rise, breath becomes shallow. By mid-morning, the body feels exhausted even if nothing heavy has been lifted. It is not life that is too heavy. It is the constant load of untrained thinking being dragged everywhere. There is a question that can cut through this trance. When was the last time existence was fully, actually here? Not here like blinking and scrolling, but here like eyes meeting what is in front of them instead of what is inside them. Here like hands doing just one thing instead of 3. Here like tasting water instead of just swallowing it while planning. Here like walking and feeling each step instead of reviewing a whole history while the body moves on its own. For many, such moments are rare. Silence feels threatening. Doing just one thing feels wrong. The system has become addicted to mental noise. Addiction is a hard word, but it fits. The mind uses thinking not only to solve problems, but to create an illusion of control. There is a hidden logic behind the loops. If a situation is analyzed enough, maybe pain can be prevented. If every worst-case scenario is rehearsed, maybe nothing will catch by surprise. If the past is replayed, maybe it can be rewritten. If harsh judgment is applied internally first, maybe criticism from outside will hurt less. The intention behind all this is protection. The effect is the opposite. Decades can pass inside this mental armor without real rest, real joy, real contact with the moment that is actually being lived. The mind is a brilliant tool. It becomes a nightmare when it turns into a home. Tools are meant to be picked up and put down. The saw is used while building, not carried everywhere all day. The phone is useful for a call, not for every second of consciousness. In the same way, the mind was designed to examine, calculate, imagine, and plan, then quiet. Many lives are lived as if the mind must be kept spinning at all times. It is carried into the shower, into bed, into prayer, into sex, into meals, into conversations. It comments on everything, all the time. No wonder there is restlessness. It is like dragging a loud machine into every sacred space. There is a simple but uncomfortable truth under all this. Often, life is not as hard as the mind's commentary about life. Circumstances can be heavy, of course, but two people can face similar outside conditions, similar bills, similar workloads, similar family dynamics, and have very different inner experiences. One moves through challenges with a certain steadiness. Another collapses under the weight of their own story about those challenges. The difference is not moral superiority. The difference is where attention lives. In one case, attention stays mostly with what is actually happening. In the other, attention is captured by constant commentary, predictions, and comparisons. The suffering is amplified not by reality itself, but by the way reality is narrated. There is a key distinction that opens an entirely different way of being. Thoughts are not the same as the one who notices thoughts. A thought appears, stays for a moment, then dissolves, like clouds moving through the sky. Yet something is always there to see these clouds. That quiet seeing presence does not change as quickly as the thoughts do. Most of the pain of overthinking comes from forgetting this. The mind's content is mistaken for identity. Anxious thoughts become an anxious person. Critical thoughts become a terrible self. The moment the watcher is remembered, a small distance appears. There is a worry, and there is also the one who can see that worry. Inside that tiny distance, freedom begins. From a practical standpoint, the doorway out of constant mental noise is not found inside more thoughts. It begins in a much simpler place, the body. The body, unlike the mind, is always here. It cannot travel to yesterday's humiliation or tomorrow's possible failure. It only knows now. Shoulders are tense or relaxed now. Jaw is tight or soft now. Breath is shallow or deep now. Stomach is knotted or calm now. These are not abstractions. They are present tense facts. The mind can say, "I'm fine," while the chest is a fist and the throat is closed. The body will not participate in that denial. One of the most direct practices for leaving the head is this. Feel, don't think about, one simple physical sensation. Breath is the easiest entry point because it is always available. Instead of analyzing breathing patterns, attention is gently placed on the raw feeling of air entering and leaving. Where is it felt most clearly? Nostrils, chest, belly? For a second or two, attention rests there. In that second, the volume of thought drops slightly. Not because a war has been won, but because attention cannot be in two places at once. When it is with sensation, it cannot simultaneously be completely inside story. This sounds too simple to matter, yet simplicity is exactly what the mind despises. The mind wants complexity, plot, narrative. The present moment is far too ordinary. Present awareness consists of breath, sound, light, body, movements, the texture of an object, the taste of food. There is no dramatic storyline in these things. For the mind addicted to drama, this simplicity feels like boredom at first. That boredom is actually the withdrawal of a system used to being overstimulated by thought. The mind will resist these returns to the body. It will suggest checking a phone, thinking one more thought, replaying one more conversation. It may announce that this kind of attention is doing nothing, or that there are more important things to worry about. This voice is not an enemy. It is simply the voice of habit. When it is believed, the old loop continues. When it is noticed but not obeyed, something new is born. The skill is not to force the mind into silence, but to stop feeding it unnecessary fuel. Feeding the mind looks like this. A thought appears, is believed, is massaged, is analyzed, is expanded. Old memories are added. Possible futures are attached. Imagined dialogues are created. The thought becomes a whole series. Then there is a complaint. This thought will not leave. In truth, the thought was kept as a guest of honor. A different approach sees the thought arise, labels it softly, worrying, planning, judging, remembering, and then escorts attention back to the body, the breath, or the task at hand. Not once, not twice, but many times a day. This repetition is called discipline. Not discipline as harsh self-punishment, but discipline as loyalty to reality. Motivation rises and falls like weather. Discipline returns attention even when there is no special feeling. The more often this is done, the more obvious the difference becomes between the thinking machinery and the deeper presence that can choose where to place attention. Thoughts still appear, but they are no longer kings. They are visitors. Attention is the most valuable currency available. Wherever it goes, energy follows. If attention spends most of its time on worries, comparison, regret, and fantasy, then life feels like worry, comparison, regret, and fantasy. If attention is frequently returned to concrete reality, sensations, small actions, real conversations, then life feels more solid, more grounded, more real. Modern culture encourages attention to leak everywhere. Scrolling, notifications, constant news, endless opinions. At the end of the day, the nervous system reports no energy, but often what has truly run out is focused attention. A helpful image is walking with a cup filled to the brim with water. That water is attention. Moving too fast, looking everywhere else, the water spills. Running in panic, most of it is lost. Moving with a certain steadiness, eyes mostly on the path, the cup stays full. In daily life, attention spills on distractions, past arguments, fantasies about the future, other people's lives. Attention is rarely poured into the simple act of eating, cleaning, writing, listening, resting, relearning, single tasking. Eating while only eating, walking while only walking, speaking while only speaking, becomes a quiet superpower in a fragmented world. Living more in the body and less in the head does not make real problems disappear. It does, however, restore the only place from which anything can ever be solved: here. Planning still exists, but it happens in contained moments, on paper, with clarity, then is put down. Thought is used like a tool, not like oxygen. When mental noise grows loud, instead of arguing with it, the system stands up, drinks water, stretches, washes the face, takes a brief walk, does one small physical task. Action breaks the trance that thinking alone cannot break. Over time, these small returns create a new baseline. The inner room that was once always filled with shouting thoughts becomes quieter, not because all sound disappears forever, but because attention learns how to step outside when the volume rises. The mind is no longer the only reality. It is recognized as one part of a much larger field that includes body, breath, environment, and presence. This is not about becoming a monk or achieving a mythical state of permanent emptiness. It is about becoming someone who can notice thoughts without automatically obeying them, who can feel the impulse to worry and gently redirect attention, who can experience a wave of inner noise and still stay connected to what is actually happening in front of the eyes. At the end of the day, the most tragic thing is not making mistakes in the outer world. The most tragic thing is living almost entirely inside mental projections and calling it a life. The moment attention begins to come back to the body, to the breath, to the ordinary miracles of this moment, that tragedy starts to dissolve. If this way of seeing the mind and attention resonates, that resonance is already a sign that something deeper is ready to live more in reality and less in endless thought. Subscribing keeps these kinds of explorations close when old habits pull attention back into the head. Liking this video helps this message reach others silently exhausted by their own thinking. Sharing it with someone always somewhere else, mentally, may offer a new doorway. And if one simple anchor stood out, breath, body sensation, sound, single tasking, naming it in the comments can be the first clear commitment to practice returning to it, again and again, until living in the present is no longer a rare event, but the new normal.